Imagine waking up one day and realizing the person you loved yesterday feels like a complete stranger today. No major fight happened, no cheating occurred, yet your feelings completely vanished overnight. This sudden loss of interest is one of the most terrifying and confusing experiences in modern dating. Most people blame themselves, assuming they are broken, heartless, or bad at love. But psychology reveals that sudden detachment is almost never a random accident. In this video, we are breaking down the exact psychological triggers that turn off romantic feelings in an instant. If you want to understand why this happens and how to stop it from ruining your relationships, pay very close attention to what comes next.
Have you ever experienced a sudden, inexplicable drop in feelings for someone you were once crazy about? One day you are texting them every hour, and the next day, opening their message feels like a chore. It feels like a light switch turned off inside your brain without any warning. You might wonder if you are cold-hearted, broken, or simply incapable of long-term love. The truth is, sudden loss of interest is rarely random. Psychology shows that what feels like a sudden snap is usually the result of hidden triggers building up beneath the surface. Understanding these triggers can save you from unnecessary guilt and help you break painful relationship cycles. The first major reason people suddenly lose interest is the natural crash of neurochemistry. When you first meet someone you like, your brain floods your system with dopamine, norepinephrine, and oxytocin. This combination creates an intense emotional high, often referred to as the honeymoon phase. During this period, your brain actively ignores minor red flags and idealizes the other person. However, this chemical surge is physically impossible for your brain to maintain forever. Between 6 months and 2 years into a relationship, those neurotransmitter levels naturally drop back to baseline. When the chemical fog clears, you suddenly see the person as they truly are, without the romantic filter. If the foundation was built purely on the chemical rush rather than genuine compatibility, the loss of interest feels instant and brutal. The second cause is a psychological phenomenon known as emotional overexposure. In modern dating, people often mistake intensity for intimacy. They text constantly, spend every waking hour together, and share every deep thought within the first few weeks. This rapid pace creates artificial closeness that burns through natural curiosity too quickly. When there is nothing left to discover about a person, the mystery vanishes completely. Without mystery or personal space, excitement turns into boredom overnight. Relationships need oxygen to survive, and constant contact smothers the flame before it can become steady. The third reason involves dynamic shifts in attachment styles, specifically the avoidant attachment trigger. People with avoidant attachment tendencies often crave connection initially, just like anyone else. However, as the relationship grows deeper and demands real vulnerability, an internal alarm goes off. Their subconscious mind perceives emotional closeness as a direct threat to their independence. To protect themselves, their brain automatically deactivates their romantic feelings as a coping mechanism. They will suddenly find minor flaws in their partner extremely repulsive, or feel an overwhelming need to run away. To the partner, it looks like sudden indifference, but internally, it is a defensive reflex against emotional vulnerability. Another subtle cause is the accumulation of unspoken micro-disappointments. When small boundary violations, ignored requests, or minor disagreements are left unaddressed, they do not just disappear. Instead of causing immediate arguments, they quiet down and accumulate silently in the background. You might tell yourself that a minor issue is not worth bringing up to avoid conflict. However, your subconscious keeps score of every time you compromised your needs or felt unheard. Eventually, the cumulative weight of these unexpressed grievances reaches a critical threshold. Your mind decides it has had enough, and your feelings completely shut down in a single moment. Finally, a major factor is the realization of value misalignment. In the beginning, surface-level attraction and shared hobbies dominate your interactions. As time progresses, deeper topics like ambition, lifestyle preferences, finances, and long-term goals naturally surface. When you suddenly realize that your core values clash directly with theirs, your brain withdraws emotional investment. You realize that loving someone is not enough if your visions for the future move in opposite directions. Understanding these mechanisms is the first step toward building stable, lasting connections without sudden drop-offs. Continuing from where we left off, sudden detachment often stems from subtle shifts in dynamic that go completely unnoticed until it is too late. One of the most destructive factors is the silent growth of resentment caused by poor boundaries. When you constantly sacrifice your own comfort, time, or values to keep your partner happy, you create an unfair dynamic. You tell yourself you are being nice, but in reality, you are building hidden resentment. Every time you agree to something you secretly dislike, a small piece of respect for the relationship dies. Eventually, this built-up frustration reaches a breaking point where your mind completely disengages. You wake up one morning feeling completely detached, not because love vanished overnight, but because self-neglect finally caught up with you. Another major trigger for sudden disinterest is the transition from novelty to routine. Human brains are hardwired to seek novelty and predictability at the exact same time. When a relationship becomes so predictable that every single day feels identical, the brain stops generating dopamine. When dopamine drops, the excitement you once associated with your partner disappears. If both partners stop putting effort into planning date nights, trying new activities, or challenging each other, boredom sets in. Boredom is often misidentified as a loss of love, causing people to pull away abruptly simply because the spark was left unattended. A third powerful factor is the realization of a mismatch in emotional intelligence. In the early stages, physical attraction and charismatic charm easily hide a lack of emotional depth. However, as real-life stress, arguments, or life challenges occur, emotional capacity becomes tested. If one partner demonstrates a complete inability to self-reflect, take accountability, or communicate maturely, respect instantly evaporates. The moment you lose respect for your partner's emotional maturity, attraction plummets right behind it. It is almost impossible to maintain romantic interest in someone you no longer respect as an equal. Furthermore, the modern dating landscape itself plays a massive role in sudden emotional detachment. The illusion of infinite choices created by dating apps and social media conditions us to develop a grass-is-greener mindset. When small friction arises in a relationship, the brain subconsciously remembers that hundreds of potential options are just a swipe away. This paradox of choice reduces our willingness to work through normal relationship hurdles. Instead of fixing the problem, the mind instinctively seeks an escape route, convincing you that someone better is out there waiting. Another psychological trigger is projection and the eventual shattering of an idealized image. Often, people fall in love with the potential of a person rather than who they actually are. You project your ideals, hopes, and expectations onto your partner, creating a fantasy version of them in your head. For a while, they play the part, or you choose to ignore the reality. But eventually, their true personality, flaws, and habits inevitably break through that fantasy. When the gap between who you imagine them to be and who they actually are becomes too wide to ignore, interest collapses instantly. Finally, a loss of personal identity within the relationship can trigger an urgent need to pull away. When someone merges completely with their partner, abandoning their own hobbies, friends, and personal goals, they lose themselves. This loss of self creates a claustrophobic psychological reaction. Your mind identifies the relationship as a cage that is consuming your individuality. To reclaim your identity, your instincts force you to shut down your feelings and distance yourself immediately. Now that we understand why emotional detachment happens, we must look at how to process it and prevent it from ruining future connections. One critical reason interest suddenly dies is a severe imbalance in effort and investment. When one partner consistently carries the emotional weight while the other remains passive, burnout is inevitable. You can only give without receiving for so long before your emotional reserve runs completely dry. When your brain realizes the effort will never be matched, it shuts down attraction as an automatic energy-saving mechanism. Another psychological trigger is the sudden activation of deep-seated fear of commitment. For many, as soon as a relationship becomes official or moves toward major milestones like moving in, fear takes over. The subconscious mind associates long-term commitment with a loss of freedom, exposure to betrayal, or inevitable pain. To avoid potential future heartbreak, the mind proactively kills your feelings right now as a preemptive defense strike. You convince yourself that you just fell out of love, when in reality, your fear of vulnerability forced you to check out emotionally. Furthermore, sudden loss of interest can be caused by unaddressed personal issues completely unrelated to the partner. Major life stressors, such as severe work burnout, family trauma, mental health struggles, or identity crises, consume huge amounts of mental energy. When a person's emotional bandwidth is completely drained by external factors, they lose the capacity to feel romance. In these moments, keeping up a relationship feels overwhelming, leading them to withdraw completely from their partner. So how do you navigate these sudden drops in interest, whether you are the one pulling away or the one being left behind? First, you must learn to distinguish between genuine incompatibility and temporary emotional numbness. When you feel your interest slipping, do not react impulsively or burn bridges immediately. Ask yourself if you are truly incompatible, or if you are simply experiencing routine boredom, fear, or emotional exhaustion. Second, Prioritize open and honest communication before your feelings completely flatline. Addressing small discomforts and unmet needs early prevents the slow buildup of resentment that causes sudden checkouts. If you need space, express it clearly rather than ghosting or acting cold and distant. Third, maintain a strong sense of personal independence within your relationship from day one. Keep your own hobbies, cultivate your own friendships, and continue working toward your individual goals. When both partners remain whole individuals, the relationship stays fresh, dynamic, and engaging over time. Finally, accept that losing interest is sometimes a natural and necessary filter. Not every relationship is meant to last forever, and a loss of attraction is often your mind's way of signaling that this person is not right for you long term. Recognizing these psychological patterns allows you to make conscious, mature decisions instead of being controlled by sudden emotional shifts. By understanding the real root causes, you can break toxic cycles and build authentic, long-lasting love. If this video helped you understand your own feelings or past relationships, hit the like button right now. Drop a comment below and let me know. Have you ever suddenly lost interest in someone, or has this happened to you? Share your story in the comments so others know they are not alone in this experience. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notification bell icon so you never miss our deep dives into human psychology and relationships. Thank you for watching, stay conscious of your choices, and I will see you in the next video.